Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, it is Wednesday, the 17th of July, and it is, of course, time for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, but not just any ramble. It is the 20th episode of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. Thank you all for listening. I am going to cut to the chase and get straight into the action. Lots has happened in the last week. I'm not going to open with 10 minutes of soccer/football again because I know that's possibly alienating. It would have been alienating to me for the first 46 years of my life until I suddenly became interested/obsessed with soccer about 6 months to a year ago, thanks to my son River. I guess part of it is down to this kind of ADHD hyper-focus obsessive thing where I should know this, ADHDers tend to kind of have these obsessions. We suddenly get this new hobby that we kind of, there's certain hobbies that I've had my entire life, but there are definitely things that I end up completely obsessed with. So anyway, I'm going to do that. Shall I flip things and start with the questions and then go into the, well, let's do that. Let's go wild and crazy. I'm a wild and crazy guy. And have you watched or listened to those old Steve Martin albums and records and specials? Again, it is fascinating. There's a great documentary actually on Apple Plus about Steve Martin and his life and his career and finding happiness and why he walked away from stand-up comedy at the absolute kind of peak of it. Basically was the biggest stand-up comedian in the world and then just completely walked away from it. Fascinating story, which... Again, I said I wasn't going to start with sports, but it's interesting. What I've become obsessed with watching recently is all of these kind of sporting documentaries and films. Like last night, Pam and I watched the Roger Federer one about him retiring and being the best tennis player in the world. And I finally got around to watching The Last Dance about the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. And the one thing that kind of comes out of all of this is that these people that have become the greatest of all time, the Muhammad Ali's and the Lionel Messi's, the Conor McGregor's, whoever is the best at their sport, Tom Brady. Again, I've been watching a lot of American football documentaries as well. The one thing that comes out of it is that no one's really very happy when they become the best, which is interesting because I often think about kind of my place in not the world, but in the kind of comedy industry of Canada, where I am essentially, I'm irrelevant to the comedy industry. I play my trade in a place that the comedy industry has always ignored, and what I do is completely organic in that I do shows that enough people like and they come to, and we all have a wonderful time together, and then they maybe tell people, and those people come to those shows. That's how my comedy industry works. This week, for example, tomorrow night, Thursday night, I'm playing the Yip Cider Dome, one of the most beautiful places to perform in the world, in my opinion. On Thursday and Friday night, there is no atmosphere quite like the Yip Cider Dome. I was nervous about playing it the first time because I was kind of worried, what's the sound going to be like? How will comedy work in this big kind of dome? Everyone's kind of lit up. And somehow it is more electric than the Comedy Store in Leicester Square on a Friday night. And not least because there's 240 people that are packed into this place in the middle of nowhere. This gorgeous dome built by, it was actually built by like a former rave promoter in Scotland, created it. And then the Mackay brothers went over and he showed them how to build it or made it. And they commissioned it. A rave promoter, a former rave promoter means former ecstasy dealer in England, by the way. And he has created this incredible space, which again, the atmosphere is incredible. Ethan Ash flew in yesterday on Tuesday. So Ethan, I have a lot of fun in my year. And I guess this is what I'm trying to get at, is that when I look at these sports documentaries and see how tortured these people are, how utterly miserable and how psychotic they basically have to be to achieve the greatness, and then they're still not happy. I love the fact that, to my mind, true success, true feeling at the top of the world, it is not being at the top. And this is, I guess, my message to anyone doing if there's other comedians listening to this, where we're often feeling like, anyone listening that doesn't feel like they're reaching their potential, you know what? You are if you're happy and you're finding joy in what you do, you are 100% at the top of your game. And I guess what I'm trying to say is when I have the fun on stage at Yip Cider and the dome is just shaking with laughter and we're all just it's hot in there and we're all soaked in sweat and there's just this energy and there's electricity and I feel like I can improvise and go off on one and just play with the crowd and do crowd work. Anything can happen in there. There is no feeling in the world quite like it. And I think, wow, would I want to be one of these, comedians or performers or sports people or anyone that is at the top and has all of these anxieties and pressures and stresses and where's my place in my career? And you listen to these moaning bastards on these American comedy podcasts. They're all just so jealous of each other and so so got this roast and then this person got a bigger laugh at the roast and then this person got nominated for a Emmy but then didn't get. And you just think, my God, that sounds not just exhausting but absolutely soul destroying. So I have reached a point in my life, having spent many years feeling like essentially I'm proud of the fact that I'm nobody. I'm so utterly happy and proud that I have none of that pressure. I get to be around the people that I love. I get to be around my children, my wife, and I get to go and perform without any bullshit because I'm not known. I don't think many people are coming to hate watch me. I mean, I will say in the last week I've put out a lot of content in social media, videos of the video that inspired the Nancy Reagan, Tim Hortons stand-up comedy routine, which I don't know if you saw my tour last year, but I had a whole routine about going through a Tim's drive-through, not in a car, with Nikki Payne, Manny Lynn Donovan, and Nancy Reagan. It was a hilarious moment. Nancy ingeniously filmed it. When we walked back into Punchlines Comedy Club, I told the story on stage. In minutes after it happened, it brought the house down. I walked off and I went, shit, I wish I had that on video. And Nancy pulls out her phone, legend that she is, and goes, ta-da! And she'd filmed it. And it basically, I honed it a bit and worked on it. And it became basically, I would say, is the routine that brought the house down most in last year's tour show. I was doing like a 90 to 100 minute show. This 10 to 12 minute routine was the one that afterwards people would go, I couldn't breathe during that. So I decided to start dropping the videos. Anyway, my point is I've been dropping clips from that. I've been dropping clips from this year's Imperial Theatre tour show. Again, I don't have the stress that some comedians have of like, I can't release this footage because I'm working it up towards this stand-up special. I just put stuff out there that people might enjoy. And amazing, it's been resonating a lot. So thank you all so much for sharing those things. And they've been getting lots of views. But of course, when lots of views come in, you then get you start to get occasionally people seeing stuff that don't really want to see it and putting shitty comments underneath. Like, I mean, really, really hilarious stuff. Like, on my routine about Tim Hortons, someone put, I like Tim Hortons coffee about as much as I like your terrible comedy. Brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad that you took time out of your day to bother writing that. Anyway, I guess my point is that I, for the most part, don't have that. I don't have that in that I get to go out tomorrow night. And, actually, tonight it's going to be even more glorious. Tonight, I am going to the Dooryard Arts Festival in Woodstock to interview Marcel Lubois about the 12 Neighbours program. I've talked about it before. I will talk about it at length next week. Anyway, so all this is, I said I was going to start with the questions and we're bloody 9 minutes in. Hey, it's a bloody ramble. Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, by name and by nature. You can't say I don't deliver on what the podcast is called. Some podcasts are called one thing and you don't get it. You fucking get a ramble when you're listening to Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. Questions, here we go. And I plough through them. Lovely Sally Valentine, not a question, but I found myself directing somebody by saying where McDonald's used to be yesterday. Oh, I literally never tire of people telling me that. I love the fact that if someone makes eye contact with me in a store and walks towards me, I know they're going to tell me that they've just recently used that direction. Can't wait for your Chester show. The Blackpool crew are coming. Sally is a wonderful, wonderful Nova Scotian who is from, well, she's now a Nova Scotian, but she's from Blackpool in England. And we have met after a few shows in the past, but specifically at the Neptune Theatre. Love you, Sally. Can't wait to see you in Chester. I love seeing the Blackpool crew. It's a wonderful taste of home. Carla Paul has asked, would you rather have the power of flight or the power of invincibility? I'm scared of heights, so I wouldn't like to be able to fly, although it would be quite useful given my schedule to get around very quickly. It would basically be kind of like, depends how fast you could fly, I guess, but I'm scared of speed and fly. So invincibility is probably good, but I don't know if I'd want to be invincible. Like, does invincible mean that then you also just have to live forever? Because I don't want to live past everyone else. If anything, I want to be the first one to go. Not in a depressing way, but like, it's gone down a hole. I hope that answers your question, Carla. Thank you. Jessica Dara, thank you very much. Why does the word fridge have a D and the word refrigerator does not? Where's the D? Bloody good point. Fridge and refrigerator doesn't have. It's a bloody good question, Jessica Dara. Thank you. Anyone out there has the answer as to why the word fridge has a D and the word refrigerator does not? Please answer us on a postcard. Or just message me on Facebook, because postcards, that's going to be slow, isn't it? Did you, Doug Robichaux, fair question. Did you cry when Spain beat England on Sunday, or have you just learned to accept it, much like Toronto Maple Leafs fans? Nicely put. Yeah, you know why I accepted it, Doug? And again, I said I wasn't going to start with soccer, but you've asked the question, so fair's fair. I had a wonderful time on Sunday watching the game with some beautiful friends of mine that live nearby. The Omatoso family, an amazing family who are like myself from the UK. And interesting, I only just found this out on Sunday, that they lived for many years in Bournemouth, and specifically in Boscombe, which is where my grandma lived and my dad grew up. Amazing small world, and we've been bonding for some time over our shared, the things that we miss from England and all the rest of it. So it made sense for us to watch this final together, this potentially historic moment. And I will say this, Toronto Maple Leaf, the point that you make, I understand. I mean, it's weird, as with all sport, there's obviously skill, but then it all kind of comes down to luck at the end of the day. Like the amount of near misses and almost and could have been. I mean, that at the end of the England-Spain game, when England basically got 3 shots on target, it was like someone headed it in, it got saved by the goalie, and then someone headed it back, kicked it in, and it was basically 3, and it just kept. I mean, everything is, and a bit like when Alphonso Davies, hit the pole in the Canada-Argentina game. All of these things. That wasn't Canada-Argentina. Sorry, that was Saturday night. It was Canada-Uruguay, I believe, in the penalty shootout to decide whether Canada became third in the Copa America final. And he hit the bar. It's all just luck. So I would say this: the best team won. It would have sucked if England had won on a fluke, because let's face it, England have been bloody fluky. This, full respect to Gareth Southgate, full respect to all the players, but I feel like England have been fluking it a bit, having some lucky wins. And let's face it, it's a fascinating and bizarre thing about sport that, watching how huge, obviously, this moment was, or the day was in England, and how the whole of England was united and how the streets were deserted. Everyone was kind of, how England comes together so much. And it's funny, Canada kind of doesn't have these kind of similar moments, which is a lot to do with the lack of media here, us not having newspapers. Like in England, wherever you live in England, even if you don't buy the newspaper, wherever you live, no matter how small, you walk into a corner shop every day and you see a wall of front page newspapers. So from that wall of newspapers, you get the headline news, you get the mood of the nation, you get the feel. There's been a new prime minister, that Trump's been assassinated. Yes, we will get there, don't you worry. You get a motivation. There's nothing like that in Canada. In the Atlantic Canada, we have no newspapers, as I've talked about before. I'm not going to go back down that rabbit hole, but I will say that Doug Ford actually said something sensible this week, if you can believe it. He pointed out, you all know how you can't share any news on Facebook anymore, right? How Justin Trudeau pretended that this was to protect Canadian media, how you can't, in order to protect Canadian media, there'll be no Canadian media anywhere. You can't share, or not just that, you can't share any media. You can't share a story from the BBC. You can't share a story from The Guardian in England. You can't share a story from the Chronicle Herald here or the TJ. You can't send any news anywhere on social media in Canada because Trudeau said that was to protect Canadian media. And meanwhile, it has been revealed last week that Trudeau has spent zero advertising on Canadian print media publications, but has spent millions with the Chinese-owned propaganda machine TikTok. So essentially, and again, I'm not getting political, and to be fair, I'm not an anti-Trudeau person. I'm anti this particular thing, and it just goes to prove that this whole thing about us not being able to share any news, which, let's face it, is also it's damaging. No news. It's dangerous. But it is dangerous when you think about a scenario where, say, there's a tragedy happening, like heaven forbid, that awful time when the shooter was on the run in Nova Scotia, or something awful is happening. No one can share news. You can't share stories about charities. You can't share heartwarming stories. You can't share. I mean, anyway, the point is that it's clearly bullshit. The reason why this isn't allowed, and it's affected so many media, especially in Atlantic Canada, especially where we don't have media here. Anyway. How the fuck did I get onto all this? My point is this: yes, there's these collective things where everyone in England comes together. Everyone was rooting for England, and it's a weird thing that England almost didn't, and it essentially meant that every single person in England felt a loss, down, unhappy. But yet, if it happened, they would have felt amazing. And it's like, and they lose, and it's like, well, why is this always us? Why we're always the bridesmaid, never the bride? Why couldn't we win? Why, it's looking back to 1966. And again, I get pride, national pride, but it's fascinating when you do break it down. And don't get me wrong, I get it because I'm 100% invested in it. But it's a fascinating thing about us as human beings, that a thing that can make an entire country happy is a ball going into a net. That actually the outcome of which, and I'm talking about all sports here, I'm just using that as an example, but all sports, how we invest ourselves in it, it doesn't change anyone's life. It doesn't change anyone other than the millionaire players, the millionaire manager, their sponsor deals. They all do very well out of it. But for the average normal person like us, right, who is working, and it doesn't dig someone out of poverty. It doesn't, it's fascinating how our happiness can be dictated by the outcome of a sport, whether it's a punch thrown, someone being knocked out, a ball going in there, a puck going into a net, a ball going in a hole. You get the gist. A tennis ball, but you get what I'm saying. It's fascinating that as a human race, this wonderful distraction that takes us away from all of our stresses and worries and can make us happy if it goes one way, but we're unhappy if it goes another way. And we're unhappy that another country is happy, which again, anyways, it's fascinating. I find it absolutely, I find it a really interesting part of the human psyche that we're all constantly looking for these kind of distractions. It's possibly, again, it's possibly why stand-up comedy is having this kind of this moment now, because we all want to laugh. And the thing that I've become so obsessed with and so interested in sport is this idea of this pursuit of perfection, but also I do feel watching the England Spain game on Sunday at the beautiful Omotoso's house, was just surrounded with my sons and their wonderful friends. It's the most it's the biggest and most relaxing time, even though it's a stressful game to watch. It's the most I feel, I guess, away from my thoughts and away from my stresses and insecurities and anxieties, and it's just you able to invest in something. So to answer your question, Doug, the 10-minute answer: did I cry? No, I didn't cry. I the best team won, and you can't say fairer than that. And I think only a jerk would say, "Oh, I want my team to win regardless. I wouldn't want to be cheating bastards like Argentina were against Canada last week." Oi, oi. Okay, moving on. Author Andrew Butters, always love hearing from you, my friend. What's one book you would always recommend outside of your own? He says for him it's two. If they want a must-read, he would recommend To Kill a Mockingbird, best book he's ever read. If they want a great time, I suggest Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. It's the most fun I've ever had reading a book. I am going to read that. That sounds wonderful. I've, of course, read To Kill a Mockingbird, and I agree it's a masterpiece. I would suggest everyone look up author Andrew Butters, read his wonderful books. My favourite book of all time, Andrew, to answer your question, is Trainspotting by Irvine Welsh, and I'm very excited that he has another book out this week. I believe it's in the crime. There was crime, and there was filth, and then there was crime, and I believe it's in that series. I'm reading I actually have 5 books on the go right now, and I'll quickly tell you what I'm reading. Although I will tell, if all of you would like something fun to read, I just found in a box the only good grade I ever got at school. It was a short story I wrote, possibly in my about 15 or 16, called Hitman by James Mullinger. The first, and it's a story that I got a 9 out of 10, like a distinction I got. It's a hitman story with a twist. I should point out, I wrote this before the usual. I don't want to give away the twist. The twist in this short story that I wrote and came up with and devised all myself was then the identical twist or similar twist to a very well-known crime movie of the 90s. It's called. This is a story called Hitman. The first line is this. Harvey's motto in life had always been crime pays. And why not? He had good reason to have this as his motto. After all, he had never been caught murdering any man. After all, he'd never been caught murdering anyone, and he lived a life of luxury. As far as he was concerned, the only way any man ever got caught murdering someone was if they were seen standing over their victim's body with a smoking gun in their hand. He was the perfect hitman. Oh, you know what? I must have seen Reservoir Dogs. Harvey, that's obviously Harvey Keitel. His boss is called Joe. That's obviously Joe Cabot from... So I obviously had watched Reservoir Dogs, but the movie, the twist... It has a similar to it hadn't come out yet, by the way. Anyway, if you want to read this, I'm going to scan it in and put it on Facebook, but I'm not going to put it on there unless someone asks, because then I look like a wanker. But if one of you asks, I'll put it on. My son read it and thought it was rather good. Anyway, so that's not what I'm reading. I am currently reading Backyard History, not the first one. Volume 2, that's right. Andrew MacLean has a second volume of Forgotten Stories from Atlantic Canada's Past. I have just started it. I will report back in detail on that. But I know it's going to be magnificent. I read his column in the Telegraph Journal every week when I can get my hands on a newspaper, because for some reason Post Media have decided to reduce the quantities to about 1 copy per province, 1 copy per town. And thanks for nothing, Post Media. But kudos for continuing to mission amazing writers like Andrew MacLean. Fox Hunt by Luke Francis Bairn is another book that I'm reading. I had the pleasure of meeting Luke at the New Brunswick Book Awards, where he was nominated for this book that I've heard absolutely wonderful things about. I've almost finished actually reading Alphonso Davis's, it's not an autobiography, it's a biography, by an amazing journalist from the Edmonton Journal, who lives in Vancouver, and his name is Farhan Devi. I might not be pronouncing that right. Anyway, Alphonso Davis. I did finish reading Lorne Elliott. Lorne Elliott is, of course, a much-loved Canadian comedian, and he wrote a book called A Few White Lies, and I just finished reading that, and I will be reviewing that, I think, in the next issue of the Maritime Edit. But I'm currently actually this week writing all the book reviews for the next issue. I'm also reading, interesting, I don't know if anyone knows, I've mentioned this before, I don't think I have, that my father's grandfather, Arthur Gordon Clark, was a journalist. And I remember when I was a child and I was saying that I wanted to become a writer, a lot of people used to say, a lot of people being my Uncle Louis and my dad and my grandma, they would say, oh, just like Grandpa, just like Arthur. And it's fascinating. My uncle, when I saw him in St. Andrews a couple of weeks ago on his first visit ever to Canada, which literally extended to New Brunswick, because if you're going to come to Canada for the first time, you only come to the best province. Just saying. I know there's some listeners for other provinces, but, you know, it's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. My uncle bought me a big book, a collection of their grandfather's writings. This would be my great grandfather, I guess. It's fascinating. It's interesting also seeing that he wrote and worked in like Maidenhead, where I grew up, which again, I don't think I knew that before. He lived in Mill Hill for many years, and before moving to Bournemouth in 1968, which, as I said, is where my grandmother and then my dad and my uncle grew up in Bournemouth, and where the Omatoso family also lived for many, many years, which again, I mentioned, we just found that out on Sunday. So anyway, it's really interesting going through reading my reading journalism from 100 years ago by my great grandfather, and discovering so many parallels to what I try and do now, which is most of his journalism is about celebrating and highlighting people and people doing things. And it's quite magical and touching and heartwarming and bizarre to read these things that seem so. His outlook seemed very similar to mine, and our writing style is oddly similar. Shane Buzan, how are you, my friend? I hope to see you at Yip this summer. Why do we drive on a parkway and park in a driveway? Bloody good point. Actually, there's got to be a joke in that. Oh, Ed Gilmore, why are animals called game, as in fish and game? I guess because people think they're fair game to kill, but they're not. So I would... that must be it. Anna Gaston has asked, as a British expat myself, I'd like to ask what culture shocks you've had since you moved to Canada. The biggest culture shock would probably be, and again, I'm sure I've answered this before, and also see all of my act for the last 10 years. Biggest culture shock would be when I got here and someone said, do you want to go for a drink? And I went for a drink with them, and they meant a drink. Because in England, if someone says you want to go for a drink, they mean 10, or till you vomit, throw up, or till one of you is in a shopping cart being pushed down a hill, or one of you is having a fight on a bus. So Jasmine Gavigan, thank you very much for this. What constitutes a good sandwich? Tons of fillings. It doesn't matter what the filling is, but as long as it is very, very full. I mean, to be honest, you can make any sandwich taste good, though, by very English afternoon tea, cutting off the crusts. Not something I do on a regular basis because A, waste, and there's a food crisis going on. But if you can make any sandwich taste super classy with cutting off all sandwiches are good. I'm embarrassed to say I don't eat many sandwiches, always trying to, it's that stupid thing, trying to stay away from too much bread, blah, 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 blah. Pathetic. But I love a sandwich. I have to say, some of the nicest sandwiches are the most disgusting looking. Like, the worst looking sandwiches, what is with the sandwiches at the Circle K? Like, who and how are they making those sandwiches? Why does it literally look like a horror movie? I mean, they taste delicious, but for example, I absolutely adore the chicken mayo sandwich, white bread or brown bread. But I mean, are they making them with their feet? Like how does it end up? The sandwiches at the Circle K, they look like, when your mum would make you a sandwich, and she'd make a really beautiful sandwich, and she'd make a real effort with it and put it in your lunchbox, and you wouldn't eat it because it wasn't a treat and it wasn't candy. So it'd sit at the bottom of your bag and it'd be under books, and then you'd get beaten shitless on the way home. So your bag had been punched 50 times, and you'd fallen off a fence, and you'd been hit with that, and you'd been smeared with mud, and then you get home and you open up your bag, and at the bottom of the bag, underneath all that shit, having taken all those punches and kicks and all those falls and all those tumbles, and then right at the bottom is this sandwich that has been absolutely mangled and smashed and pummeled and beaten to and it's still in the cling film, but it's completely misshapen. It looks like the Elephant Man's head. That's what the Circle K sandwiches look like. How do they get like that? I don't know, but it's a skill. How are they getting them from the kitchen to there? Anyway, it's remarkable, but they're delicious. So loads of stuff. What's the nicest thing or best advice your dad ever gave you? I think the best advice this thing my dad ever taught me was definitely the notion of hard work. I definitely feel like, I love it. Also, the gifting me a love of collecting, a love of books. Taking me to all the things that I think I've said before, the things that I enjoy doing now are things that he instilled in me when I was young. Swimming, books, church, all these things, all the things that he did with me, sticker books, collecting, all things that he did with me and for me. And so, but advice, I will come back to you on that, because there probably is something quite profound. There's something in my book about this. that I can't talk about without crying. So, Jeff Lafferty, thank you for asking this. What East Coast town or city haven't you explored yet that you would like to? It's a great, great question. I guess Fogo Island, obviously, in Newfoundland, Labrador would be one. There are parts of Nova Scotia that I haven't been to. Pretty much, I've seen a lot of and done most of PEI. Performed in pretty much every corner of it. Been all over New Brunswick. Is there anywhere in New Brunswick that I haven't performed in St. Martin's, which is ridiculous because I love it there. So I would love to perform in St. Martin's. Which East Coast town or city haven't I explored? Oh my God! Right next to me, I've got tons of old New Brunswick guidebooks. Granted, they are from the 1950s, but I wonder if there's a little map on it. Let me have a look at this. Oh, here we go. There's all of them. There's Pocalo, Renforth, Rexton. Best holiday I ever had was actually in Rexton. Best holiday of my entire life. Oh, wow. Look at this. Rosse, page 25. What does it have to say about Rosse? Best places to... So in Rosse, this is from 1949, Shadow Lawn. Mrs. James G. Fleming, guests overnight by week, month, or season, or by the hour. Oi, oi! Kennedy House. Is that it? Are these... Oh, no, this is... Oh, Renforth. There's a place called Rest Haven. 3 rooms and 1 complete bathroom. What does that mean, 1 complete bathroom? You get half a bathroom? It's half a toilet in there. East Riverside. Homestead, Tourist Inn and Cabins. Fascinating, this book. So yeah. Oh, you know what? We know what happened. I mean, I haven't been to Deer Island. That's embarrassing. Is it Deer Island? Deer Island. I have not been to Gramanan, which is that's a scandal. I'm embarrassed about that. So I have to say it would be Gramanan, and I want to do a show there. So if anyone can help me with that, that'd be wonderful. Tim Andrews, my beloved, he threw a curveball question at me about the Scots and the Quebec separatists. He asked me, he made a point which is absolutely valid, and I want to agree with him on this. He wrote to me about me talking about drugs and football, soccer. And he said, I feel you might have been giving the fans a bit of a hard time, and the media still whips up negativity about the fans. Fans have a rep and not a good one, but things are better now. That said, have you noticed the difference in how fans celebrate goals now? Total carnage, go back to 1996, and it's way less animated. This is down to the marching powder the Albanians are pushing on the streets of London. That is a fact, I will point out. That's not a racist assertion. Google the Albanians and cocaine and London. You'll see that. It is a very good point. That's really interesting. Fans now, some of my favorite things on social media for the last couple of weeks have been the English fans going absolutely mental whenever we score a goal, going absolutely wild. It is partly due to the Bolivian marching powder, but I have to say, Tim, there was a lot of coke going around in the 90s as well, if not more so. I don't know, actually. I can't, but I mean, in the 90s, it's so weird to think the 90s now is as far back from now as the 60s was from the 90s. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I think now that, to be honest, we've also got so much less to live for, and the world's become so much more fucked that now, as I was saying earlier, we're more invested in these things, and they mean more to us because there's so much depressing, awful shit going on in the world. Like, just the reaction to the Trump assassination attempt, which we'll get to. But I will say, Tim's absolutely right. I was giving the British fans a hard time. A lot of what I was saying was exaggerated / not true. Some of it was for comic effect. Some of it was just me pandering to a stereotype. And the bottom line is, for every one bad British fan, although there's hundreds and hundreds of good people out supporting British soccer fans are great people. I went to, I mentioned I had that life-changing experience going to see a Crystal Palace game. Crystal Palace, best fans in the world. You should Google an article on British GQ about how Crystal Palace fans are the best fans in the world. Although I will say, in the Spanish-England game on Saturday, not impressed by the fans in the stadium booing the Spanish national anthem. That is not cool. That is dick behaviour. But the reason that Tim is right, that I do give the British fans a bad rap and it's not fair, is that hours after the Euros final, I watched the Copa America final, Argentina versus Colombia, was it? Am I just saying Colombia because we were talking about? Anyway, the game started like an hour and a half, 2 hours late because fans stormed the stadium. Like it was a complete carnage. It was completely, complete disarray. So fans behaved deplorably everywhere, given certain circumstances, and so there was the proof. Right. I'll quickly whiz through my week, and I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna keep this a short one today. So last week when Trump assassination attempt, deplorable state of affairs. It's the most bizarre thing, obviously, not least because it's like he couldn't have asked for better PR. I mean, literally, like, it's impossible for that to have been staged, but everything about it looks staged. Like, I mean, it's impossible. There's no way they could hire. I remember in The Sopranos, they tried to hire a rapper wanted they hired some doofus to try and shoot them so that their album sales would go up because they had an assassination attempt, and he was supposed to nick his butt slightly and missed, or I can't remember the ins and outs of it. But point being, there's no way, no shooter, and you can't rig a shooter to kind of clip your ear. But my goodness, the fact that Trump's immediate response to jump up, fist in the air, blood over his face, American flag waving behind him. I mean, it's a dream come true. The only thing I can come from all of this is that the universe wants Trump to be president. As depressing as that is, how can this man be gifted this moment of sheer heroicness that makes him look, that his fans already, but anyone on the fence is going to, and it makes him look young compared to Biden, even though he's only 3 years. I mean, it's just awful. And I mean, the outpourings of again, obviously, I am totally against assassination attempts, just to be completely clear. I just wish that we could have I wish the Republicans had as much compassion when it's a classroom of preschoolers getting shot up as they do when an old, evil dictator who organized a riot in the Capitol. I wish that they had as much sympathy for preschoolers getting shot as they do for an orange man losing a bit of an ear. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's it. It's like a Quentin Tarantino. It's like someone else told me, what's your favorite Tarantino movie? A Reservoir Dogs, when they cut the guy's ear off. Right, that's what we'll do. We'll do the ear. But of course, I will say, tragically, obviously someone did pass at this thing, so I'm not making light of it. It's interesting hearing the news, and they're saying, like, the police chief in charge, she should stand down, and she's going, I'm not going anywhere. And it's like, good on you. Don't. How they can say, how did this happen? How did this happen? Because you, Republicans, told everyone to fucking buy guns. You gave everybody guns. You want everyone to have guns. How did this happen? That's how did he get bullets? Because they're available everywhere. Because you're giving them away. You want more people to have guns. And I get that a shooter shouldn't be able to get on a roof. But I mean, my God, you put guns everywhere. All of that said, it should not have happened, obviously. And again, as I say, against shootings. But I'm especially against this shooting because, unfortunately, it means that Trump is going to be president. And then there'll be a lot more violence, which is absolutely tragic. So last week after I spoke to you, I went to Ballet By The Ocean. I've said it before, say it again. Greatest performing arts experience in the world. And, I mean, literally one of them. Absolutely phenomenal. Staying at a beautiful ocean, watching world-class ballet dancers from all over the world, eating fine food from Atelier Tony, sipping on beautiful Magnetic Hill wine, enjoying some cans of Long Bay. I stayed at Hotel Shediac that night. We were there with our friends Christine and Andrew, had a wonderful time. Next day, had the old indignity of trying to get the car charged. Everyone else just goes to pump up their gas. I've got to go and go to the car charger, and someone else has just got there, and then their car's fully charged, and then they haven't left. So I have to have the big dilemma of, can I unplug their car, even though they haven't come back to their car? We've also had a lot of other stuff. We've had a lot of stuff going on last week. I don't like talking about personal stuff on this often. Well, not. I don't mind talking about personal stuff about myself, but we've one of my beloved mother-in-law has been in hospital, so every day we have been visiting her, and that is basically the highlight of all of our days, seeing her and seeing her getting better, and seeing her get better thanks to the world-class heroes at the St. John Regional Hospital, who I will take my hat off to every single day of my life, and I'll never stop appreciating everyone at the St. John Regional Hospital for that. So that has been something that we've been doing a lot of. been working hard. Friday night, my wife and I didn't even get a chance. We actually spent all night working on a proposal for work because that's what's what we do when you run a small business. Obviously Sunday was the Canada Uruguay game. No, Saturday was the Canada Uruguay game. What else have I done this week? Monday, went to the vet, went to the gym, had a great workout with my trainer Tara, who is a hero and made me feel invincible. And then Wednesday, Monday night, Riverhead Soccer, went to Long Bay, which again I mentioned is open with Monday nights. They have split pants beer, beautiful. So yeah, and then sat on the beach yesterday. Yeah, like I say, watched the Federer doc. But yeah, I guess so. To round everything up, this is what I find so weird about the Last Dance documentary was this idea that the Chicago Bulls win 5 consecutive, whatever it is, 5 years they win the thing. They're the best run ever, best team ever, and then suddenly that kind of small, weaselly white guy is talking about like how he's going to replace the manager, he's going to replace Michael Jordan, and blah 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 blah, and it's just that very weird thing of just going, wow. Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time. He's the king of the world. He's the most famous athlete in the world at the time. He's a god to many people. And meanwhile, he wasn't happy because the powers that be in his organization didn't appreciate him. And meanwhile, they're talking about replacing him. And you think, Jesus Christ, like what chance do the rest of us have if you're aspiring to unrealistic ideals of perfection, if even Michael Jordan isn't happy when he's just won everything or rather, not that he's not happy, not to do that down, but that he is feeling unwanted and unloved. That's absolutely insane. So the joy, I guess what I'm trying to say is the joy of being unsuccessful and completely unknown is that I get to enjoy what I do. And I guess I would say that to anyone listening who feels like they want more of this, more of that. It's like, no, we get to enjoy what we do. I have no pressure other than doing a good job. So tonight at Dooryard Arts Festival, when I sit on stage with Marcel Lebrun, I'm going to be nervous because the guy's a hero, a legend, an icon, a philanthropist, unlike any other. I get to enjoy it. And tomorrow night at Yip Cider Dome, I get to enjoy it with my dear friend Ethan Ash. Friday night, same thing, back on stage in the Dome. Tyler's going to be capturing it. It's going to be magical. And I will say Friday night is sold out. There's still tickets left for Thursday night, tomorrow night, and we're doing a few more shows later this month. A couple more things before I dash. I am doing a Q&A at the Somerville Art Festival late in August. More details on that to follow, but Google Somerville Art Festival. Cindy, who runs Somerville Art Festival, is truly a hero, an absolutely wonderful, beautiful, brilliant woman who brings artists from all over the world to little Somerville, a population of 300 people on the Kingston Peninsula. It's my dream gig, and it's me and her doing a live interview on stage in a church. It's all my favourite things. An old church, Kingston Peninsula Art Festival. Absolutely amazing. And obviously I've got my British Columbia tour dates are on sale, Okanagan Valley. Plus tickets are selling fast for both Playhouse in Fredericton and the Moncton Capitol. So get those if you do want to be somewhat being up near the front. Fredericton, I'll be joined by my friend and beloved Corey Hartlin, who every year comes with a new set, rips the roof off. And I'm delighted to say that we will also both be joined doing a short guest spot on that show at the Playhouse in Fredericton. Will be a wonderful, new, upcoming, highly talented comedian called Brady Mandeville. I get people reach out occasionally saying, can we open for you? Can we come and do a gig with you, for you? And I love giving people opportunities, but crucially, I need the shows to be great. So I always check people out. He sent me his clips, absolutely brilliant. Like, I could not believe how good he was already. Clearly wants to work hard. Clearly he's about doing the grind, putting in the hours, getting out there, doing the shows. I was absolutely blown away. Anyway, so please join me in welcoming Brady Mandeville to the I guess the Canadian comedy scene, or the New Brunswick comedy scene, or whatever it is that we do here. And I hope you'll join me in watching this fiercely funny young talent on stage at the Playhouse in Fredericton. I think that's it for Managers Meets. No, Managers Meets Canadians is the old podcast. We don't edit this, so Manager Meets Canadians is my old podcast. There are 50 episodes of that. If you get sick of the rambles and you think I'd rather hear managers speaking to like actually intelligent and actually successful people rather than just that loser banging on and on and on, I listen to Manager Meets Canadians. You can hear me interviewing everyone from Ron James, Rick Mercer. I'm performing with Ron James actually in September. Anyway, I'm trying to pack as much in as the last couple of seconds. So this might be the shortest ever episode of Manager's Weekly Ramble because I'm going to get the title right this time. Thanks for listening. Please keep sending your questions. I genuinely, absolutely bloody love getting all of your questions. And Megan Joy White, thank you for that beautiful question about my dad's advice. I'm going to come back to you with a full answer on that. More on the Trump assassination next week if you want it. Write to me, comedy@jamesmanager.com. Tell me what you want to hear more of. Tell me what you want to hear less of. And please, 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 do consider leaving a review of this on the Apple Podcasts thing because Reese and John at Podstarter told me to say that. Okay, love you all. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next week. And I think on next week's episode, I'll be joined by the amazing Ethan Ash. So that's it. Thanks very much. Lots of love. And you know what? Do I have time for one more thing? No, I don't, do I? You know what? Have I got something that there was a couple of questions I've forgotten about. Oh, I love this. Neil Hocking, beautiful Neil, a Brit who lives in Moncton. I loved he left a comment last week on this. He said, "Manager, we need to have a beer. It'd be rude not to." I love that phrase. You should have a drink, mate. Yeah, it'd be fucking rude not to. Love that British phrase. British phrases that people wouldn't understand here. I think, yeah, be rude not to, mate. I thought that was nice. And I also want to shout out to Liam McNamara, who very kindly helped me encourage you all to go out and see the amazing Caitlin Dean. He made a very good point that we need to create a Canadian panel show. There's 1 million panel shows in the UK. There needs to be a Taskmaster Canada. I believe there's one in Quebec, but there isn't one in Canada. Trust me, I'm trying to make that happen right now with one of the top producers and television producers in the country. But as he pointed out, we need a Canadian panel show. And Liam came up with the name, so I'm saying it on here first before some other bastard nicks it. 8 out of 10 lobsters. Genius. Or 8 out of 10 beavers, he said. 8 out of 10 mooses. Big Fat Canadian Quiz of the Year. One of these things. But anyway, I wanted to put it out there because those are all copyrighted by Liam. So if I end up doing that show, make sure that I have Liam on it. Thanks very much for listening. This has been Manager's Weekly Ramble. Holy shit, has it been a ramble. But God bless you for listening. Thank you very much indeed. Lots of love. See you all next week. Bye.
Manager's Weekly Ramble.